clocks, the very object that tells you, oh gosh, it's already 6? Well, how much progress have I made on this video? Clocks. I'll just push it back another week. Anyways, it's the concept of time that determines how we manage stuff in our lives, and it's thanks to the evolution of clocks that we not only know how much time remains before nighttime disasters with a moon, but they can help us in various situations, from counting down from specified minutes to counting upwards. Pretty cool. Now you're probably thinking, this man has lost it, making a video about clocks, and all I've got to say is, what the heck do you know? Probably lost it the day I talked about my crippling addiction to Fire Emblem Heroes, which, good news! We're now holding a 10-month streak of not spending a single penny on the game. Woo. But the real reason I'm talking about clocks is because I wanted to talk about a specific clock that you may have heard of that was released on, you guessed it, the Nintendo Switch eShop. A pool of titles with anime characters in the front that turn out to be just another lousy puzzle game. It's actually crazy how many of these there are. But yes, the Nintendo eShop is home to the hit release of 2021 AAA clock. $10 application that doesn't even include the DLC it has? Oh yes, it has DLC, but if you thought I wasn't gonna purchase this and make a video on it, and you clearly have not seen this channel before, and you should subscribe because it's gonna get a lot worse from here. So when we first opened the application, we are greeted with, oh thank God, it's actually a clock. I thought it was another copy of FIFA 19. But yeah, it's a clock, and it does indeed tell the time. And if this was a typical review, the video would have definitely ended right now out of continued viewer concern over my mental state. But we're a very serious channel here, and there's only one true way to determine the proper rating of this game: by comparing it with other clocks. So along with the AAA clock application, we will be comparing it to this Casio wristwatch, an actual 20-plus-year-old alarm clock that gave me PTSD every morning, and two special stars of the show, the Animal Crossing clock and the Mario clock, both from the Nintendo DS eShop. That's right, in contrast to my calculator video, Animal Crossing is finally getting some love, so as long as I don't f***ing see Nook anywhere. You have to admit, this is an incredible lineup for a review on clocks, so let the clock competition begin! When it comes to a clock, making sure it functions properly is key for everyday life. Starting with AAA clock, it is as effective as the system's own clock, which is effective as long as it stays automatically synced. And that alone gives AAA clock the win over every other clock. Seriously, it already won this category. I mean, the watch doesn't automatically sync, and about twice a month I have to readjust the time on it because it would be like 8 minutes behind, and I sit there wondering why. Why is it falling behind so often? This ancient artifact most definitely cannot sync the global time, but it doesn't really fall behind. Maybe once every few months it'll fall behind like 1 minute. That's actually quite impressive compared to the watch. As for the Mario and Animal Crossing clock, no matter what you were on, whether it was the DS or the 3DS, you had to manually set up the time for it. And another thing I realized about the non-AAA clocks, daylight savings must be a fucking pain with needing to change the hour on stuff. So in the end, yeah, it's an automatic win for AAA clock. What a start for this thing. Now, not every clock has to be portable. Many are used for display purposes at home, but as someone who has to be somewhere every single day, portability is just essential. With the watch, it's a given that this was made to be portable. I took this thing almost everywhere I went for many years. Remember that watch mark I had in the Nintendo mobile games video? Yeah, you f***ing saw it. As for the digital clock, when you unplug it from the outlet, yeah, it's dead, doesn't work. With the AAA clock, the Switch ain't gonna fit in my pocket. Sweater pocket maybe, but this isn't the ideal way for me to check the time. I could bring my case everywhere I go, but I don't think a Switch case goes along with morning jog. But with the 3DS and DSi, this very much fits in my pocket, and it's pretty easy to pull out and open. But in the very end, full points goes to the Casio watch, because nothing beats looking down at a watch. It is crucial for a clock to be consistently active so you know what time it is whenever you decide to check. Now you're probably thinking, but Brian, a clock doesn't need batteries. You could just plug it in, which goes to show you aren't thinking hard enough. It's the end of the world. Outlets are rendered useless, and generators are dead. So you have to solely depend on the batteries that remain. Which would you decide to be the most reliable? Starting with the 3DS, knowing that we are running a DSi software that isn't too intense, we should be able to crack about 7 to 10 hours of on-screen battery, which isn't too great. Once it reaches that amount of time, the 3DS is just dead. Just like the person dependent on the 3DS as a clock. But what about the Switch? Surely it'll get us through a lot longer. Nope, not at all. 4.5 to 9 hours of active screen time, which is why I question why a AAA clock even exists. You could have this game set an alarm when you go to bed, and it's quite possible that not only will the alarm not go off in the morning, it might just be dead in general, just like the person who chose a Switch as the best option for battery. As for the digital clock, we already saw that it can't take, wait, what What is this? Well, the search to find the battery leads us to Target, the one store I never go to because the carts make this loud f***ing sound every single time, and I always come down with some illness after visiting. But when I was little, it was always the Nintendo section I looked forward to visiting, the place where I could look for the next game that I wanted to get, or where I would complete Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon in its entirety. That's not even a joke, I actually completed the entire game at the 3DS kiosk. I gotta say though, it's not as exciting for me anymore. Sure, the Switch kiosk is there, but I mean, I own a ton of Switch games already, so I don't really find anything that's super interesting or pops out to me. Also, a complaint for Target, what the heck is this? You guys printed out front covers and just stuck them into the game cases? For some of these, there's nothing in the back. Some of them are double-sided, a lot of them are not, and others aren't even printed correctly. Look at all the white space on this one. What the heck is this? Anyways, I found the batteries, took home a Pikachu, and I had a glance at the holiday section all to realize that this stuff has been sitting here since September. But the moment of truth, let's put these batteries in and see what happens. But despite everything leading to this point, somehow the f***ing Casio watch comes out on top again, as this battery literally lasts 10 years. Through one battery, Apple products actually in shambles. Next, we will determine the clock's effectiveness, which you're probably thinking, what the f*** does it even mean to test the clock's effectiveness? And I'm glad you asked, otherwise we would have just skipped the category. For this one, we will be testing to see which one of these is effective as an alarm clock. And the best part is that this is the Commenter Choice Award, which means that everyone must go down to the comments to state and present which of these clocks you believe to be the most effective alarm clock for you. Starting with the Casio watch, I've actually never heard this alarm, so let's give it a go. All right, not too bad. Definitely a noticeable sound. It is a bit of a hassle to set up an alarm on this thing though. You have to know exactly which buttons to press and the operations of the buttons. One mistake and you may accidentally exit the alarm setup process and have to start over, or overwrite the current time of the clock rather than setting an alarm. But moving over to the Mario and Animal Crossing clock, they are actually really easy to set up alarms with, as all you have to do is just go to the next menu to the right and you have 3 alarm spaces that you could set up, all with very easy interfaces to set up the hours and minutes that you want for your alarm. Now, when the Mario alarm goes off, you can choose one of 3 classic Mario themes that we all know and love, and it's pretty decent. But as for the Animal Crossing clock, there is a feature that allows you to create a town tune in the application. Just like in the Animal Crossing games, you could make a neat town tune, and then it'll play when the alarm goes off. And of course, the town theme I would create is the Pokemon theme. I mean, come on. What did you expect? And then it just loops it over and over again until you turn off the alarm, so it's pretty cool. Or not, because instead of doing that, it just makes you choose one of 3 Animal Crossing themes that we could play instead for the alarm. I mean, sure, I guess it works as an alarm, but what's the point of the town tune feature in the end? Why would you add this then? But another really cool thing about both of these alarms is that even if you have the game asleep, or even if you turn off the volume of your handheld, the alarm still plays at max volume. Now that is what I call effectiveness. As for AAA clock, there are different alarm sounds for the different clock faces, which is pretty cool because it adds a variety, but unfortunately, unlike the DSiWare, it has to be on and it has to be full volume to be able to hear it. If you have this off, you will not hear the alarm. If you have the volume off, you will not hear the alarm, which kinda sucks. And then you have the classic clock. I really don't want to hear the alarm for it. It works so well. It'll always wake you up, but I can't handle another second of this thing. Please make it stop. Finally on this review is the bonus features category, where we look at the additional features each clock presents to the user, and the better the feature, the higher the score it'll receive. Beginning with where this video should have stuck to before it went all game show is AAA clock, which has a decent amount of additional features. For starters, the clock has various faces, with some additional ones available from DLC. Yes, somehow there is DLC for this thing. You've got the cyber clock featuring a random cyber person looking like he'll jump out of the screen to kill me at any moment. Maybe later. Now there is this meter that goes up and down, just because, I guess, but there's also these individual lights that fill up after every second goes by, and that's pretty cool. There is the classic analog clock that showcases the 4 major hours in the day. How about a pixel clock with some quite large pixels that kind of make me hate this one a lot, but the truth is none of them compare to the national clock, a true reminder of the greatest nation on this planet, Sweden. Now, the cool thing about these clock faces is that they are customizable in terms of the color variants. You can change up the color scheme of the clock, and there's some really nice combinations that you can make, except for the national clock, in which you get additional flags in place of America, because every now and then you do wake up feeling a little Aussie, mate. But to top everything off, there's also a mini game that you could play if having a clock application wasn't enough for you. It's a game where you jump to do obstacles, and that's all there is to do. None of these in-depth stories or complexities of global societies with intense motivating character progression, just a side scroller with some jumping involved, which conveniently transitions us to the Mario clock. Because one of the big additions this application had was the ability to actually go through some Mario Bros levels while in the clock. Now, there aren't many levels to experience, and each level basically loops the same 3 sections about 1,000 times, but they do try to make it at least worthwhile for at least the one time you're playing it. Every time you get 100 coins, which would usually indicate receiving a new life, instead you would switch into Luigi, who is now a character that runs on the screen, and the Mario you just saw running is now attached to the hour of the clock. If you keep going and then you start filling out the entire clock, you will then end up at the princess's location, to which she will basically ask if you're ready for another adventure, which will either take you to a new stage or just take you back to the same one. But regardless, it's a really neat addition that actually shocked me when I first tried this application on my DSi. It was pre-installed as a DSi bundle I got as a kid, but I just remember how shocked I was when I found out that the Mario clock was actually more than just a clock. Moving over to Animal Crossing Clock, I kind of already revealed the big feature being the Town Tune Maker, which is still pretty neat. Not as intriguing as the Mario clock, but still a cool addition that makes sense for the Animal Crossing theme. As for the Casio watch and the digital clock, no extra features of interest other than the watch's ability to turn on a very dim light when it's dark. So in the end, which clock came out on top as the best clock? Well, we can't say for sure because we're still waiting for all the comments to come in. But what I will say is that overall, it's been a pretty decent experience with the DSi, where it's just so cool to remember the days of randomware in the DSi that somehow was actually pretty decent. I mean, did you know that there's an actual Uno DSiWare game? It feels like I should make a video about it. It's not a teaser for the future, it's just, I should. But now with AAA Clock, the game we were supposed to talk about the whole entire time, it's a pretty decent application overall, and there are some charms to it. Like, it's not an absolutely trashed application that is just tested on the screen showcasing the time and that's everything there is. There's some nice stuff in there and even some surprising additions that I wasn't really expecting. But in the end, there's just no purpose for this application because at this point, everyone has a phone with a clock in the front. So honestly, even though you may see this game and its DLC on sale for $1 pretty often, it's still not worth buying because you're probably never going to use or need a full screen clock on your Switch. As for the Casio watch and digital clock, I prefer to never speak of them again. Which at last concludes this clock competition. No. Anything but this crap. Anything!
That's it?